Hi, I'm here to talk about the human relations course that I took from Dale Carnegie. It's a 12 weeks course, and I'm here to maybe talk about it in 20 minutes. 12 weeks of 4 hours a week for 12 weeks into 20 minutes. I hope you'll get something out of the How to Win Friends and Influence People, a summary of the course, as well as the book of the 30 principles on how to really get that human relations and leadership and how to become friendlier and really influence others. And I hope you will enjoy. The first principle is do not condemn, criticize, or complain. This is a book that we got to keep us reminded. And so far, after graduating, about 2 months ago, I've seen really made a big difference in how I build relationship. And that first principle on do not condemn, criticize, or complain really is very important. And if you have this knocked out, the rest of the principles will be easy. Try to control yourself in criticizing. As a human being, we tend to really see the faults of others rather than ourselves, and we condemn them even in a nice way, in a subtle way. Try to avoid that. And throughout this short 20-minute crash course, I'll put some backgrounds of the real experience that I had, because it really makes a difference if you have that experience and share it to others. Telling stories, true stories about yourself, really makes a big difference in communicating, rather than telling others what to do or being preachy without really telling your story makes an impact. So the first principle is do not condemn, criticize, or complain. The second principle is to give an honest, sincere appreciation. When we say thank you, I really appreciate what you're doing, sincerely, it changes the motivation and attitude of the other person that you're telling this to. Just yesterday, when I was transferring my phone service from AT&T to T-Mobile, I was really frustrated. I couldn't get through what she was telling me what to do. And I noticed that, so I cut myself on my emotions. So I said, thank you so much for doing this for us. I really appreciate what you're doing. And what's your name? Her attitude really changed, and she became more helpful, and she actually called us back, making sure that all our phones are working and transferred well. And so simple things like that. And imagine having all these principles really works on all kinds or aspects of our life, whether you are a businessman or just talking over the phone with someone, or you're in the hospital and you are in email. All this tone works. The third principle is to arouse another person's interest. We tend to talk a lot about what we know or what we're excited about, and that's okay. But remember to always arouse other people's interest, because there's another person there you're talking to. And when you do arouse the other people's interest, they tend to really feel good and more trusting to you, because you are interested with them. It's all about other people. Remember that. And that's the third principle. The fourth principle is to become genuinely interested in other people. We tend to say, I really appreciate what you're doing, but we don't mean it sometimes. And when we show interest, we talk about, things that they're really meaningful to them. And when we do that, we are showing interest to others. And if you know that the other person has been through travel or has been going through a lot, say, how are you doing? I hope, actually mention someone or actual event without really going to the other sensitive things. It makes a big difference, showing that you are really genuinely interested. And when you do that, they will tend to smile. And you see, that smile really makes a difference, isn't it? So the fifth principle on how to become friendlier, the first 9 of these principles, by the way, is how to become friendlier, which affects others and you become more influential, is to smile. You know, that smile really makes a difference. And I always try to catch myself when I'm speaking, and sometimes when it's video and I look at it, it's not smiling. It makes a big difference. You know, when you cut that smile and you put that smiling face in the camera, it makes a difference, isn't it? So when you're talking, and I know sometimes you only have 4 hours sleep or something happened, and the other person doesn't really know what's going on, so that smile really makes a difference, because it shows enthusiasm and you're excited about, you know, the other person. So always smile. The 6th principle is to remember that person's name is the sweetest word that he can hear. Always remember, and always know that it's the most important word that a person would love to hear. Have you ever encountered where you really feel embarrassed because you've been seeing this person for like, you know, 4 times already and you still can't remember his name? It's really embarrassing that sometimes you tend to really just avoid that person. So you lost one relationship because it's simple as you forget his name. In the Dale Carnegie course, and also on his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, here, they show you how to remember names using visuals and stories. When you meet the person, try to imagine that person and incorporate them in certain things that you can really remember. And another way is to just repeat it and asking them, and try to incorporate that name to a certain object or something popular, and put their face on it. That will make a big difference. So always remember the person's name is the 6th principle. The 7th principle is be a good listener. That's why we have 2 ears and only 1 mouth. We always hear that, but it's true. When we listen, we encourage other people to talk. And we have this tendency to really talk about what we're excited about, and we tend to forget there's another person there that really wants to talk. And so we should always listen and encourage other people's interests to tell their own story. And this will really make a difference in, let's say, in a business networking. When I was in a networking one time, and I really pay attention, and because I was really interested, and I think she noticed that, because she went back to me, and actually we ended up having a business. Any one of you really have that experience when you really want to do business with somebody because he listens? So show interest in other people. Be a good listener. The 8th principle is talk in terms of other people's interests. Same thing. You know, you have your own expertise, you have your own motivation, but always remember, and all of these principles are very simple and common sense pretty much, but it takes practice. And always try to catch yourself if you are talking too much about yourself, and you stop showing interest to others. The 9th principle is make other people feel important and be sincere about it. Saying hello, and if you really mean it, makes a difference. And when somebody email you and you know, you don't respond after 3 days, that makes a difference. So if somebody make a phone call, left a message, answer them right away, or send them a text, say, I'll get back to you. Sorry, I missed your call. I really wanted to talk to you. That is a very impactful word, because the other person will feel that you really care about him. The 10th principle, now we've gone through how to be a friendlier person, those first 9 principles. The second part, of how to win friends and influence people is how to win people in the way of their thinking. The 10 principles, the only way to get the best of argument is to avoid it. And we don't see this in the politicians. They'd like to argue on stage because it's almost like a show to win other people's vote. But if you tend to argue and really bring out, your point, you're not really gonna win. Well, you're gonna win, but then after that, the other person loses, and you both lose actually, because you just lost somebody who's come back to you and become your friend or become an influence because you tend to argue. So if you think there's an argument going on, and try to avoid it. That's the only way to do it, is to avoid it. 11th principle is to show respect for the other people's opinion, the other person's opinion, and never say you're wrong. And then again, it's common sense. You don't say that person or even imply that they're wrong, because other person loses his face or her face because you said you're wrong. And especially if you're a very influential or a very powerful leader, and if you say that, you just crush somebody's motivation and self-esteem. Number 12 principle is, if you're wrong, admit it right away, empathically. I'm so sorry. Please let me make it up for you. And don't even justify it. Okay? And again, this is common sense for some people, but it's very hard to admit you're wrong because you always wanted to be right, especially in your business. It could be a hit on you because you were wrong, but admitting it and do it emphatically and quickly would make a big difference. That's the 12th principle. And the 13th principle is to begin in a friendly way. When you are in a business meeting and you're the leader, always come out, bringing the good news. Never start with the bad news. Always be friendly, a firm handshake, smile. All the first 9 principles comes out. Be friendly. That would be great. The 14th principle is get the other person saying yes immediately. I know that it's very tricky to have somebody say yes quickly, because it's very hard to say yes, and sometimes it's also hard to say no. But always, this time, you really wanted to show enthusiasm. The way to other person to say yes is to really know that person, what makes him or her, what's their motivation. And in that way, again, let's go back to the first 9 principles. Become friendlier and know that person, show interest, and you will be able to have them say yes immediately. The 15th principle is let the other person do the great deal of talking. And that was mentioned a while ago. That is, always listen. And if you have, this person really make the best way of talking, again, we're talking already about how to really win people in your way of thinking, is to let them talk. Let them talk all their interests, and then say a few words after they're finished. Because in that way, they really express all their opinions and words that they want to talk about. And then it's your turn to really make that thing that you wanted to sell them or tell them to do. It will be much easier because you have their floor longer than you do. The 7th principle, or the 16th principle, is let the other person feel that the idea is his or hers. This is very difficult, especially on the, when you are competing with somebody, but as a leader, you should always, don't try to get all the credits. When you are a very influential person, you want to really give the credit to who's really due the credit to, and make this turnaround that, hey, you really wanted to have this, don't you? It's especially when you're selling something, let them really say that this is what they need. Don't tell them that they're gonna need it. So tell them it's their idea and it's not yours. 17th principle is try to honestly see things in other people's view. And always take, the other people's shoes, and what if this is really them and not you? That really makes a big difference, because if you really want to influence them, really get to know them and really get to know what their point of view. The 18th principle is be sympathetic with the other person's ideas and desires. And again, this is caring for others. A lot of these principles have Christian values, very common sense. I think Dale Carnegie is a Christian, and the Bible is full of all these principles in a different language. And knowing this really will help you fulfill some of the principles in the Bible or in the Christian. But whatever your religion, this really works in making business deals, in trying to influence your family, and trying to, teach your kids some values and things to do. So be sympathetic and make it their idea. 19 is appeal to nobler motives. Don't always say this is, to the better of our good, but then what do you see after 5 years? What kind of values, when you're talking to somebody in a year or 2 years? So consider the value of both yourself and the others, and appeal to nobler motives. Something that will give impact to the society. 20th principle on how to win friends and influence people, and again, this is how to win other people's buy your idea, is to dramatize your ideas. When you're explaining something, again, going back to what I've said, telling your own stories, and really an actual stories that will really, something funny or something, a breakthrough in your life, will make a difference. It will touch somebody's emotion, and that's what you wanted to do when you want to influence, is to get into their heart and talk about it. The 21st principle is to throw down a challenge. And people likes easy things, but when you throw them a challenge, you make them think, and you make them do something that you think that will bring up the best of them. And throwing a challenge really will continue your relationship, because they want to, please you, or they want to prove a point because you've thrown a challenge. Since we're running out of time, we only have 20 minutes. This is, we still have 10 principles, but I've already talked 2 parts of the how to win friends and influence people. And there is about 10 more, which is how to become a leader. And I'm going to talk that into the next session. Maybe you can watch another clip. And again, the first part that I've talked, first 9 was how to become friendlier, and the last part was to how to really get somebody's buy your idea. So I hope I'll post this on TonyAnswer.com, and you can check out the book How to Win Friends and Influence People, and the 12-week course of Dale Carnegie really pays off. I know it's a very expensive course, but it's very common sense. People, it's easy to talk about, but it's very hard to really practice. But I hope you keep in touch and have somebody else to really watch. If you're really practicing this, that would be a good idea. And I hope you got something on this presentation. Have a great day.